Haven Studios is a music mentoring program that allows teens and young adults to come in and make the music that they like. This space was necessary because at the time, Chicago, we hear a lot about all the violence that's going on, and often we talk about the problems, but people weren't coming up with solutions.
Before I came to Haven, my life was crazy.
I used to get in trouble a lot. Actually, I close I was about to commit suicide.
What better way to solve it than to give people something that they love?
I mean, of course, it's the outlet for me to be able to make music and freely create how I please. But more than that, it's become a community.
Creative space.
Just come here and be yourself.
I just like the environment. I like the people that be around me.
A need for community, a need of friendship, a need of to have their dreams come true, to feel like they're important to the world and important to somebody. We feel like if we have the opportunity to grow and to take things further, not only could this space reach its full potential, but also it could be implemented in other neighborhoods that need to have spaces like this, that need to have safe spaces. And if that's possible, then not only is Haven a benefit to those communities, but a benefit to Chicago and the world.
This is Haven Studio.
This is Haven Studio.
Welcome to Haven Studios.
This is Haven Studios.
This is Haven Studios.
This is Haven Studios.
This is Haven Studios.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another Power of Music episode sponsored by the We Are All Music Foundation. This is our fourth episode, and today we have Andre Daniels, also known as Ad2, with us. He is an MC, mentor for Guitars Over Guns, and he is also in charge of running Haven Studios in the south side of Chicago. He has an incredible story to tell. We're excited to be understanding a little bit more about communities all around America and how youth and mentors, mentees can work together to achieve some great things. So for those of you that don't know, the We Are All Music Foundation is about 18 months old. We've made our first grants to charitable organizations that use the power of music to improve lives, better society. We're the central voice in areas for social causes like education, health and wellness, and underserved communities. So without further ado, we're going to get started. Welcome, Ed.
Hey, what's going on, man? How you feel?
I'm doing great. Great. It was a pleasure to get to know you when we were prepping about a week ago. And I was amazed by some of the interesting stories and your observations in the world we're in today and how you're working with the youth. So I don't want to go into it myself. I really want you to tell the story in your own words. So why don't we get started?
Indeed, man. Well, for people who are just meeting me for the first time, my name is Andre Daniels. My stage name is Ad2. I'm an MC / mentor from the south side of Chicago. I grew up in an area called West Englewood on the south side, and I'm the second of three kids. My mom, she had three boys, so as you can imagine, the house is full of a lot of testosterone, a lot of like competitive nature and stuff like that. So, but I've been blessed and privileged to live a life where it's been dedicated towards music and community. One of the things that I'm most I want to say just drawn to is helping people. And what I've learned was my easiest tool to connect and to communicate was through music. So I started out rapping. When I was young, I wanted to be like Criss Cross. I don't know if anybody remembers Criss Cross. They had that song Jump. I was wearing my pants backwards and rapping, and I wanted to be just like them. And that was my first taste into music and what it could do to your confidence and what it could do to influence you, because I was wearing my pants backwards and my shirt backwards, and my mom was like, this is not really helpful to you as a kid when you need to go to the bathroom. The dress down was not fun. So, but it really made me want to just be creative and to be able to be in that space of just like you can use your voice to do anything. So that's where it started. And from there, it also became a place of I want to say solitude of of therapy. I would be able to express myself about what I was experiencing as a teenager and a young adult growing up in Chicago in West Englewood. And for those who may not know, around the time when I grew up in Chicago, it was in the late 80s, early 90s. Around this time, of course, the Bulls were having the greatest run in sports history. But then also there was in our neighborhoods a it was being damaged by drugs and gangs. And at the time where I was present, unfortunately, all my friends started having this choice going down this fork down the road. And the fork in the road was either we somehow, some way stay in school and stay focused, or it was kind of being influenced by what was happening in the streets. And since unfortunately, like it was a powerful draw. I've noticed a lot of my friends going to the way which was kind of like detrimental to the decisions that they needed to make. And I wasn't too far behind. I was I was like right along with them. I was wanted to be down and wanted to be cool with everybody. And unfortunately, those decisions made some really unfortunate things happen, man. Like I've in fifth grade, one of my best friends was shot, and he was also in the fifth grade as well. He was shot in his leg. My neighbor, who I looked up to, he was killed, and that was like one of my big brothers, one of the guys who I wanted to be like. And I remember his last conversation with me was, uh, Andre, I don't. He was like, I will get you these Jordans that you see on my feet. He was like, I wanted his shoes, and he was like, I will buy you these shoes myself, but you got to promise me you'll never end up out here on these corners like I am. And it was such a profound thing for me to see because it was like I would think that his if the lifestyle was so good that you'd be like join me in this, but instead it was this no you have potential. There's something in you that's different. You should try. You should be focused on something else. And so um, I took that to heart, especially because in fifth grade you never anticipate that being one of your last conversations with somebody. And I started using rap as a way to talk about those things. And because when you're in school, you start to write and you have to do these presentations and do papers, and a lot of times you're being judged from the teacher's standpoint of if it's correct or not. Did you spell everything correctly? Is the structure the right way? Like, is it formatted the right way? And when I was writing raps, I didn't have that level of judgment. It was like, how do you feel? What is your story? Just say it. Nobody's going to tell you you can't say that. Just, I needed that because my parents weren't necessarily the best listeners when it came to stuff like this. It was a very do as I say type of relationship, and they wanted the best for me, but I think they didn't necessarily understand how to relate to me in that space. And I couldn't necessarily be who I wanted to be in the streets because it's like you have to be tough. You have to be tougher than what you are on the inside. You have to be because unfortunately vulnerability doesn't it's not celebrated as often, right?
And it must be pretty confusing for someone that's young.
Absolutely. It's like, well, where do I stand? It's like, is it okay for me to say that I'm hurt that my friend has died? But you can't because now you look like you're weak. And then they take advantage of that. I was, oh, he's soft. He has a place of weakness. We can take advantage of that. So
And you didn't feel like you could reach out to your parents about this as much as you wanted to?
no, I think the reason why was because there was fear from their perspective. It was like, okay, well, if you're so hurt, then I have to remove you from your friends. But I'm like, but I also love my friends. And if I'm away from them, then I don't feel like myself. But I don't want to desert them at the same time. And there's confliction. And you want to be able to tell your parents, but sometimes their their thing is to solve the problem. You
Hmm.
know, at all costs, I'm going to protect my child. I don't care what your friends think. I need to take you away from this environment.
Right.
But then there's also that, well, you can take me away from the environment and then I may not like where I am. And then now I take it out on you and I resent you. You know?
Who did you go to? Was there anybody?
Um I think the first spaces of understanding happened with my mentors. It was this guy named Kyle Dixon. He was my teacher for my senior year in high school. And it was like his first year teaching. So he was like the cool new teacher. And he was giving me all this new hip hop music to listen to.
Hmm.
And he would see me rapping in the hallways. And he'd see this crowd around me. He'd be like, hey, man, you know, you pretty good. But you're not talking about anything. And
Hmm.
I'm like, what does he mean I'm not talking about anything? Did you not see the crowd go crazy when I
Hmm.
said that word? Like, he was like, but he knew what I could have said. He was like, just imagine what you would do if you were telling people something with substance. And I was like, hey, okay, well now he's challenging me.
Hmm.
So now I'm like, and I'm competitive. So I was like,
Hmm.
okay, well I got another rhyme. And then I come back the next day and then he'll hear me and be like, okay, see, it kind of worked. And I'm like, all right, I liked his approval. I liked seeing somebody who was older than me, who was in a space that I wanted to be in.
And did that
And
give you confidence?
oh man, it made me feel like I was on top of the world. It made me feel like I could be somebody that I was seen. And I think a lot of times people, they're never seen for their gifts, for the things that they take pride in. So they just try to look for validation anywhere. So to get it from a source of where I needed it, it meant the world to me.
Mhm. So then, if you fast forward later on, as you've now gotten involved as a mentor yourself now with Guitars Over Guns, and for those that don't know, we at We Are All Music Foundation made a grant to Guitars Over Guns based in Miami and Chicago. Um, Over 1,000 kids being helped every day through these mentor-mentee relationships. Andre, why don't you tell us a little bit more about what that program entails? How did you get involved with it? Why was it important for you to give back to?
Yeah, so Guitars Over Guns is a music mentoring program that pairs teens, kids, young adults with mentors who are in the music field. So there's a lot of people who teach, whether it's piano, guitars, bass, drums, hip hop, pretty much whatever these kids are into. They pair them with mentors who just so happen to be real musicians who are in the industry, who have been in these same places, have sat in these same classrooms, but also who have gone on to do amazing things. Like our staff is filled with such amazing musicians, but who became great mentors as well. And so, but we're in neighborhoods where I feel like it's necessary, where it's needed, where we understand just how powerful music can be, how that can be the tool to keep you inspired, to keep going day by day. And so that's what attracted me to the program. Was it wasn't like, hey, we're just going to be music teachers. You
Hmm.
know, if we were just music teachers, I think you could find that a little bit of anywhere, but uh, it was the emphasis on mentoring. And mentoring means it's all the intangible things, it's all the et ceteras. It was, yo, you have to be there for people in times where it may not be the quote unquote time that you clock in and clock out. You
Hmm.
have to be present during moments when it may not look like just, hey, I'm checking to see if your grades are good. Or, hey, you can show up to the class. Hey, did you learn this song? Okay, cool. Like, it's more than that. It was all these little things, and to be present for people who I often felt were overlooked. Like, we understand the problem once it's at the point of problem.
Hmm.
Instead of going to, let's start at the spaces where help is needed before it gets there. Let's start at the positions when they're young. Let's start in the times when they need these influences to happen, as opposed to waiting to this moment of, oh, now they need rehabilitation, or now they're in the system, and now what are we going to do? It's like, no, let's start beforehand. Like, we know this means something. We know that everybody starts their day with music. We know that people drive to work listening to music. We understand that the music can change the way a room feels. So that, why not use that as the way to communicate to the youth?
Well, you saw how much music changed your life. It gave you a voice, right? It gave you the confidence,
Absolutely.
put you down a direction. Uh, Frankly, it kept you busy, uh,
Yeah.
right? We've talked about this, right? Just in terms of what you could be doing with your time, kept you focused and busy. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about as you started to get that confidence in rapping and you became an artist. How it sort of set you up for success in terms of keeping you busy, keeping you focused.
Yeah. So, one, when you find something that you love, it's really hard to put it down. It's really hard to just kind of put it on the back burner, especially when all the good endorphins are happening. And you're like, oh man, this is amazing. I love this feeling. It's hard to just say, like, you know what? It was such a great feeling that I'm never going to do it again.
Hmm.
Most times it's like, well, you know what? I want to figure out how I can stay immersed in this. And so I would be writing rhymes till 2, 3 in the morning, and my mom would have to tell me, hey, I need you to go to sleep. You got school and you can't be up here writing. And then also, when my friends would start to get into trouble, I never was around anymore. It was just I was so busy doing music. I was at the studio. I was always writing something new. They would tell me about all the stuff that they got into. They'd be like, man, we got into this big fight yesterday with so and so, so and so. And I was like, oh, dang, well, where was I? And I think I was like, oh, well, I was writing raps. And so they'd be like, they stopped calling me about certain things because they knew I was busy
Mm.
and they knew I was focused. Or they'd be like, you know what? This is kind of beneath you. I don't even want to call you about stuff like this anymore. And
Yeah.
so, and as you keep growing, it starts to build up that habit of, all right, it goes from writing rhymes to I need to perform. And then now thinking about being on stage. Now I'm performing consistently. And then now I'm trying to figure out about how to market the music and how do I create CDs and how do I create merchandise. And then now I'm just going down this rabbit hole that never seems to have a bottom.
Hmm. Yeah, no, that's incredible. And so it probably taught you things in mathematics, in marketing, in business, all along the way, giving you confidence that you were using your own voice to not just tell the world what you want to tell the world, but really have an outlet for yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, no, that this I always said music was like the therapy that my parents could never afford.
Mm.
It was at a time when I needed it, when a space that I needed, and it encompassed so much. So, and then to know that you have value,
Yeah.
that there's people who listen to you to start off their day, who will quote a line that you wrote and be like, man, that's what I live by. Like I knew it was real when one of my friends had a song title that I wrote, had it tattooed on both their arms. And I was like, geez, like songs mean that much, and so, I for people who value music and who understand just what it means to be a practitioner of it, there's very few places that's higher than being able to express yourself and people liking what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me a little bit more about Haven Studios. How did this come to be? I hear it's in the basement of a church, right? And so tell us how this was formed and how it's evolved.
So Haven Studios is a studio, like you mentioned, in the basement of a church called Mount Pisgah Missionary Baptist Church on 46 and King Drive in Bronzeville, the historical neighborhood of Bronzeville. It used to be the home of the blues in Chicago. Muddy Waters, Sam Cooke, Nat King Cole all used to live in Bronzeville, and so it's not even ironic. It's fitting that we would have a studio in that space. And way it started was I was working for Guitars Over Guns, and I was also signed at the time, and I was in between albums, and I really loved mentoring, and I was just like, these 2 days out the week is not enough for me.
Hmm.
And I always would hear in the news about all the violence that was going on, and I was like, a lot of people need a space, a physical space to go to that it doesn't necessarily abide by the rules that we've known. It's not just a school program. It's like this has to be different. This has to be a community program. And my pastor, he just so happened to hear that he learned that I rapped, and I got scared because I was like, oh God, no. I don't want him to listen to any of my music. And it's not like my music was bad, but it's like Jesus pastors is different.
Mm.
But he was like, no, I really love what you do. Is there something that you could do that maybe would be for the church? And I said, well, it's not necessarily for the church. It would be for the community, because I think it's a different goal in mind. And he said, you know what? I used to work in public schools. And so I think this would be really amazing. He's like, make the presentation for me, show it to me, and let's go for it. And I had this idea to kind of come back to that idea of what we mentioned before. One of my former mentors, his name is Mikael Alton. He had a studio that he set up for us when we was teenagers, and he didn't care what we said. He just let us say whatever on the microphone. It was me and my 5 friends, and it occupied my time. And I always said, if I could do something on a grander scale of that, that's what I would do. And so I presented the idea. I was like, yo, it'd be a studio. It runs from, at first it was going to be in the afternoon, but then it developed into a 10:30 until 6 p.m. type of thing. And we were there all day. And kids would show up beforehand. Like, they would be there early. And I'm like, why are y'all here before I got? They was like, man, I got here an hour before. I was like, I'm not, why are you here an hour before it starts? But it just proves if you give people a place to go where they feel valued, it would develop. And
And how many kids do you think have gone through that studio since the beginning?
At the beginning, like at least now, I think the total last number that we've counted total was like 300 something, like in total.
Yeah.
And before that, man, when I was first getting everything together with Chad, we mentioned Guitars Over Guns. Chad Bernstein is a very, very, very key component to this story. Chad, he was like, I showed him the idea and he didn't blink twice. He was just like, oh, this is what we want to do? Let's do that. Let's do that to a T. And he greenlit everything and made the investment into the space and believed in what we were doing. And every time I was like, at first I was like, yeah, we're going to do it from after school hours. He's like, okay, cool. And then I told him, I was like, yeah, the hours have changed. It's from like 10 now. And he was like, okay, cool. So
Chad is an incredible leader.
Absolutely.
I mean, we were incredibly impressed at We Are All Music Foundation around his leadership, his vision, his ability to expand this, frankly. You know, I think, and you look at the number of mentors, mentee relationships, the number of schools they've expanded into, the vision, the leadership is there. You know, one of the things we look for in particular is scalability. And we like to partner with organizations where we can develop co-initiatives and really work with them to grow and expand what they're already doing successfully. And so it was very clear that the impact, I mean, I've seen the data that Chad has shown me around test scores, around attendance, around life surveys, around life confidence, and comfortable with developing relationships more and more. And everything that we do is about seeing real impact, right? It's not just, you know, hope for the sake of hope, right? It's let's see the data, let's see the impact. And it was just crystal clear how much of a difference it was being made and how much it could be expanded from where it is today, right? So we thought it was incredibly important to bring you on here because you've gone full cycle. You started off as a young kid. You know, rap music was really just kind of early days, and it wasn't the pop. It is effective. It's become today's popular music, as you know, and we'll talk about that, how you think hip hop's evolved, right, in a few minutes here. But you know, you've come from you seeing the importance of it, you know, going to music yourself for guidance, and then seeing what it did to your life, and then being so gracious to give your time back to the youth in Chicago today, partnering in many ways with Guitars Over Guns to do this. And so we're just so happy at We Are All Music Foundation to have found you all. I mean, you guys do the hard work on the ground, but we, you know, our goal is to now take this community, this donation community, the world, shine a spotlight on what you guys are doing. And together, this could be great. I know we wanted to spend some time bringing in one of your mentees, and I think it's a good time to do that now. Paris LaShawn. And before we do, well, he's coming on board. This is great. Hi, Paris. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Welcome. Welcome to the show. We were just having a good chat with Ad about a lot of the work he's done with Guitars Over Guns, and we're so happy to have you join us today.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
So, Ad, why don't you take 2 seconds and introduce Paris?
Yeah. So Paris is a very unique individual. Paris, one, is his humor to me has always stood out. Like his sense of humor is amazing to me. But his thoughtfulness as a person within the studio, his work as far as music goes and culture goes is second to none. I've watched him grow from his artistry. When he walked in, he would be like, "Okay, cool. I'm about to learn how to engineer with everybody else." And then he took it a step further and was like, "Hey, Ad, can you put Pro Tools on my laptop?" And we put it on his laptop, and then he was recording at home, and he would have to travel long distances just to get to the studio. And when I would find out, I was like, "Man, you were traveling this far just to get over here?" And the sacrifice that he would do between just showing up was always appreciated. I can't speak highly enough about Paris, but yeah, man, this is Paris LaShawn.
Paris, tell us what having the mentor-mentee relationship has meant to you, but also maybe take a step back and tell us your story a little bit in the process.
I was drumming, for my uncle's church from, I guess, from diapers all the way up until I was about 12, and then I stopped drumming and I was just making beats. I have one of my other uncles. He was also a rapper. Well, he still raps. So I would kind of sit under his wing and kind of soak everything in musically. I was being in real studio sessions like the one you're in right now. Like I would be in real studios, like just soaking up all the knowledge and information. And then as I got older, I started trying it on my own, making beats and rapping. And then when I hit my teen years, that's when I knew definitely I'm like, I want to rap. And then I was in college. I was in our rap and poetry team, so I was always doing spoken word. And then I came home from college after about a year there. And then I met Ad2 around like the end of 2016, right when he opened up Haven Studios. So it was kind of one of those storylines where it's just like it just happened at the right place at the right time.
And I think when we spoke briefly before this, you were telling me that it was kind of tough growing up in Chicago, that a lot of different points in time you had to come back to the music. What did it mean for you to have music? And how do you think it affected your life in terms of where you are today?
It's affected me very, very positively. I honestly probably wouldn't have had the opportunities for certain things or even got a chance to be around and experience a lot of different things that Ad has invited me to. Had it not been for music, it helps keep me sane a lot of times, especially during this current pandemic. I even if I'm not making music, I'm always listening to music from other artists. Even a lot of my own friends that are part of Haven Studios. Yeah, it's just it's a really amazing thing to do.
And do you think when you look at friends that you've made now, a lot of that has come out of the studio?
Yes, definitely. I definitely have made a lot of friends coming out of Haven. We still have new people that come in every few months, so that's a good thing as well. It's a few friends that I actually had before Haven, and I had disconnected with them. Just growing up, and then I reconnected with them because they ended up coming to Haven Studios as well. So that was a good thing. I kind of consider them more than friends. Just like we're all sort of a family at this point, because outside of music, we all look out for each other, whether it's somebody going through something, like somebody lost a loved one, we always reach out and are there for them. We're always looking out for each other. So that's the dynamic of it.
And so, Ad, I think this is a great example because it's not, the relationship is not just music classes and technical and notes on a page, right? It's about life, right? And Ad, do you have anything to you think it's an important message here you want to tell people watching as it relates to what they can get out of a type of program like this?
Yeah, I would like to encourage people to one, utilize whatever you have to connect with the community. Sometimes we always think that we have to do it on the most grand scale, and we be like, man, if I don't have this, then I can't do that. A lot of times, I think if you just go out with the best intention and work with what you have, then you'll find that the community will fill in the spaces. And also that it doesn't change the fact that the need is there. Like the need is it outweighs everything. So for me, I love the fact that I'm watching them grow into who they are, like who I know that they can be. Anytime I feel like I help or I give to them, they always tell me like, "Yo, Ed, one day I'm gonna pay you back." And I always tell them like, well, your money's no good here. I was like, the only way you could pay it back to me is if you do it for somebody else who would, like a couple years from now, when you might be growing up and you in a good position, do the same thing for somebody else. And so, and as long as we keep passing that down, then I believe that the world will be in a better place. Like we just need good people present. So, yeah, that way, if they meet somebody in need, that they'll be able to change that. And if I affected my group, then that's several people out there doing good.
Those are definitely words to live by. You know what's interesting to talk about now? The language of hip hop. Hip hop has become the language of today, of kids. How has that changed in your mind from when rap and hip hop was just in its early days, many, many, many years ago? How has it really evolved? And the youth that you see coming through the studio today, it's not just music; it's their language. So let's talk a little bit more about that. And Paris, if you want to chime in too, in terms of how you think it's evolved, that would be great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. I'd say, well, I grew up in that era of when, hip hop was still kind of like, it was coming into the forefront, but it was also like on the cusp of like, it could still be a fad. And so you watch it go through phases and different stages, and you go through different eras where it's like, all right, now the West Coast is being like popular at this point, or then now it's down south, and it's all these different styles that came to be. So, but then they also had a lot of different messages. And then when you start to see that as it grows with popularity, so does the monetization of it. And so now since it's at that popular space, it becomes an ecosystem. So companies are like, well, we can use this sound to pair it up with these type of advertisers. And I always want my mentees to be mindful of the industry, because you can come in with the best intentions, but it's not necessarily that the world wants that. You know what I'm saying? And you don't be swayed in changing how you feel, because you can still do the right thing. You can still make your voice heard. Don't feel that you have to do what's being popular just because it's in the in crowd right now. So, or it gets you paid a large lump sum amount of money for a short amount of time. Like, I want them to see like, yo, your voice has power. So what you give to the world, people are listening to you. There's people who might be taking notes, who might be like, yo, whatever song you put out, that's what they're going to do. So it's like your voice has power, and I want them to understand that they have influence. So be sure that whatever you're putting out there to the world is something that you're proud of.
Paris, what are your thoughts?
Well, Angela, he's a little bit older than me, so I wasn't, I was born in 1998, so that was like right after the, quote unquote golden era of hip hop was like basically, over with. Like Ad said, that I've seen that, industry change to where, you know, you would have people come in with the right intentions, and, you know, they want to put across a certain message, but, you know, again, like you said, it may not be what people want or what, you know, labels want to promote at the time. So overall, you know, you know, he just always reminds us like, hey, make sure you understand what's going on, make sure you know, stay educated on the industry, and make sure that, you know, you just have the right tools to, you know, actually get across the message that you want to get across.
Great. Well, I think we're running against a little bit of our time constraints. I think this has been a really interesting conversation. I think that, you know, our audience will probably come away looking at this and thinking to themselves, I'm so happy that I was able to really see the impact, because we get questions all the time about, well, what is the impact, you know? And I think we need every day for people to be doing what you just said, which is paying it forward, right?
Yeah.
And increasingly corporations are learning that they need to tie, you know, important social causes to their messages, right? You talked about commercialization, which could have some negative impacts if people have to, you know, kind of, you know, work through the artistry and the commercialization of things. But as it's become more of a popular language of the youth, you know, corporations now are saying to themselves, well, there's a voice here, right? There are real messages. There's a real dialogue that needs to happen in this country, especially in the divisive time period that we've been in. And hip hop is right in the center of that dialogue. And it wasn't always in the center of that dialogue. It was always, it started, as you know, it was on the outside trying to get its way into the dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
And it's there now. And it's you know, the youth has a voice. So use it. And I think pay it forward, right? Let's get more mentors who are willing to give back, help people stay focused, develop lifelong skills that in many ways only music can bring. And, you know, we'll try to do our part, Ad. You know, I think we're just trying to shine a spotlight on you. You're doing the hard, heavy lifting. Paris, we're excited that you were able to join us. Stay true to your heart, stay true to the music. And Ad?
Yeah, and I would just like to, of course, man, thank you again for the opportunity. Love being able to speak with like-minded people and like-minded organizations who understand the value of what it means to use music as a way to communicate. And for those people who are listening, never underestimate your ability to connect with people through your story, your testimony, and to be a light in your own way.
For those that want to learn more about the We Are All Music Foundation, you can go to weareallmusic.org. You can also check us out on our Facebook page and our YouTube page. You know, we had over 287 organizations apply for grants. It was a bit overwhelming, but we now have the largest database of music nonprofits in the country, and we are aiming to grow our ability to provide life-changing grants to those that can demonstrate their impact and the ability to change lives. Look for us actually in the New York City area around Hudson Yards this coming spring and into the fall. We'll be hosting a number of live performances, and we appreciate Hudson Yards and their support for all that we do. And other people, founding donors and corporations who have increasingly seen our impact and want to spread our message. So thank you again. And till next time, appreciate everyone joining us.